You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this. What's up, guys? This is episode 20 of Podcast PXN. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I'm joined by the pride of PlayStation, Sean Babiak. Sean, we got 6 new seconds of Halo Infinite footage wait, that was like 2 weeks ago at this point. 2 weeks ago.
I've already heard this whole thing already, so I'm already tuned out.
If you aren't aware, we recorded this 2 weeks ago, and it went miserably. We lost all the audio, so basically we're just repeating ourselves from 2 weeks ago in a format that you guys can actually hear. So we'll go ahead and continue.
It might not be an hour and a half this time.
It might not be. We're prepared now.
I prefer an hour and 10.
Thank you to everyone watching live and participating in the live chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. All you have to do is search Podcast PXN and you'll find us on there. Remember, the show always starts with the PXN News of the Week, so let's go ahead and jump right in. The first item we have on the PXN News of the Week is we have brand new The Outer Worlds Story DLC confirmed for 2020. So this is all absolutely great news for me personally. Outer Worlds, my personal game of the year, spoiler alert. And new DLC for this, I'm super stoked for. Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 both had really good DLC for both of those, and obviously this game is very influenced by those two games, so I'm very excited to see what planets they add and how they expand on the ending of the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds ending is kind of like, it doesn't really, it's not like a hard ending or anything like that, so it still leaves room for like expansion onto other things, so there's always more stories to tell, so to speak, so I'm very excited to get more Outer Worlds DLC.
I have no opinion on Outer Worlds.
Of course you don't.
So we were discussing like all the game of the year stuff and like things that we're gonna play to essentially catch up on. And Daniel has a hard out on Sekiro. He refuses to play that for game of the year consideration, and I refuse to play Outer Worlds for game of consideration.
Well, that's fair. I mean, to each their own. So, obviously that's great news. We're excited for that among all the
I think we have to call
other
this
games.
stuff information. We can't call it news anymore.
True. It is information, but we're
also, on the PXN information of the week.
Well, but we're also reacting to that as well. So, I mean, whatever. Our next news story, Respawn has posted a brand new job listing that is very subtly hinting at a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sequel. That joke doesn't seem to land the second time because I've already done it before.
It didn't land the first time
I thought it was funny, because it's not subtle. The posting is not subtle whatsoever. It basically says the post is looking for someone passionate about the Star Wars universe, someone who's invigorated by the idea of coding third-person action-adventure games. So obviously, this is a sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Fantastic news for the game because the game is obviously great. There's just some very small problems that Daniel has with the game that you don't agree with. We know. We've discussed this before. The Dark Souls elements, that whole deal. I think we talked about this last time we recorded this episode where I think that they need to have some kind of mode to cater to people like me that don't like the Dark Souls elements and have a hard mode for people like you that like that stuff personally. That's what I think they should do to accommodate everyone.
And I disagree wholeheartedly just because I think how they designed is how we should be playing it. Personally.
But there's multiple difficulties in the game, so which difficulty are you supposed to play on then?
Mm-hmm. Just whatever difficulty you want. The only thing that it should be affecting with gameplay would just be enemy health and your own health.
So the only thing I'll say to that is there's other games that have changed gameplay elements in order to accommodate difficulty. It's not always just like how difficult the enemies are. There could be how many enemies there are, how many strategies you have in order to defeat an enemy. It's just, I don't know.
There's no way we'll agree on it because yeah.
But what I'm saying is personally, it doesn't hurt anyone to add a difficulty where it accommodates people that makes it more pleasing for them. It doesn't hurt anything. If it still has the same stuff that the original game has, and has it in a difficulty that you like, then that, to me, that would make sense, because...
I guess my only thing is I think you're in a minority when it comes to the elements of...
I don't think I am.
A lot of the critique that I've hear on the game is nothing about the combat itself when it comes to the Dark Souls element. It's not people being frustrated about that. It's more or less the story, which Cal Kestis does have his issues. I think it is a very well wrapped up story at the end, but the beginning does start off very slow. But I don't have any issues with the gameplay.
Yeah, you don't, but there's definitely other people that do.
There is, but that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think you're in the minority with it. I think the majority, I'll give an example actually, real life. I have a friend, Mark, that does not play any of those Dark Souls games whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he caught on very well. The only issue he had was the beginning of it, just trying to learn how to be not run and gun. And that's essentially what you're supposed to do, though.
Yeah. So the thing is you're of the mindset that you should play a specific way. I'm saying, why not give other people the way that they like to play? You're basically sectioning off people because they don't like to play it a certain way. That's why I don't like Dark Souls, because they do the same thing. You're forcing people to play a game a certain way, and personally, I don't think that that's the way a game should be.
But most games force you to play a specific way. No. There's not this whole open freedom of it. I think we've gotten too used to games giving everything that we want, all these choices, and games can exist where you don't have a choice. We actually talked about this off camera, how I am very excited for Last of Us 2. That's coming out this year, which I can say that and not screw it up.
Right.
But I'm also in that mindset that I never needed a sequel.
Right.
I thought that story, I loved how it just ended. And it is a very controversial ending, how it happens. Spoilers, because I'm going to go into it. Came out in 2013. I mean, Joel is not a good guy. He never tells you that he's a good guy. You just always assume he's a good guy. And he's technically a bad guy. He saves Ellie for his own selfish reasons. Not at all to help the human race or anything like that. He just helps her. That's it, because he wants it. And the game just ends right then and there. They never had to make a 2 or anything like that, but they chose to end that game right then and there.
Right.
And people like it, people hate it.
Right. But you're talking about story beats, which is...
I am, but I'm using that dichotomy to show how you could juxtapose those two.
And that's fine with me. If you have a linear story and you want to tell a story in a certain way, that's perfectly fine. But when you're talking about gameplay, when you're putting it in the hands of the people, it's very different, because everyone has their own way to play. It's for instance, Star Wars Battlefront 2. It gets a lot of hate for how accessible it is, because it's not like a hardcore shooter per se, but then you get more people that get to play it and experience it. So is that a bad thing that more people get to enjoy it and experience it? Personally, I don't think so.
I think it just depends on your preference with that stuff.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying. Give people the preference that they want. If they want to give you the option to play the realistic way, the original Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was, make that a hard mode, and then still have your insane difficulty mode, and have a more accessible story mode. For instance, Assassin's Creed has done a fantastic job of that in their recent games. Origins and Odyssey both had a story, essentially a story historical mode, where you could play through the game and just experience the story. The gameplay stuff was irrelevant. It didn't matter. And to me, personally, I think that's what's exciting about games, is giving more people the ability to play them. That's just my 2 cents on that.
So the more or less it is, him and I will never agree on this with Star Wars. But we both like the game.
Right.
We both like the game.
But this is a tangent, but do you like that ability in Origins and Odyssey to give people the option to play that way?
I really don't.
So why? I guess is my only thing.
Personally, I think you and I agree that games deserve to be more viewed as an art form, because they are a form of entertainment. Right. Just like painting, music, books, all that stuff. They are an art form.
Right.
And I think that the developers, the creators, the directors, all that stuff. I believe that they're artists in their own right, and we should experience what they're giving to us. Don't get me wrong. I understand in this media, they cater also to fans more so than any other art. I mean, musicians, for the most part, don't cater to fans unless I guess they're selling out, so to speak. Yeah. They just put their music out that they want to. But there's a lot more investor stuff that goes on with games as opposed to other media.
Yeah.
So I actually experience what the developer has in mind for me.
So this is the last thing I'll say. You can rebuttal or whatever.
No, we're going to move on next.
But to your point, the thing that Origins and Odyssey has, the developers are on record of saying like they are super excited to make stuff like that. They, like you said, they made that. Like it's not like that was something that someone else brought in and said that this needs to happen. That was something they created and wanted people to experience.
But not as the way to, I guess, fully experience the game. Now again, I could be wrong. That might be the actual intended way, or it could just be a pseudo-intended way, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah. It's just my personal preference. Same thing. I'll go. My last thing is, we were talking about Dark Souls earlier. Is Dark Souls has a very, very, very in-depth lore to it. But you probably, if you just played it like just randomly and didn't read anything or pick up on any signs, you'd just be like, okay, I'm just supposed to kill this monster, ring this bell, and that's it. I don't understand what's going on. Okay, that's it. But if you actually take the time, you can get into this story. I don't know. No. It is what it is, but we do have a few other topics we'll argue later.
Yeah. So, next news story we have, Capcom registers a brand new trademark for Dino Crisis and Darkstalkers. So
I was really hoping while we were gone, something would get leaked on like a Dino Crisis thing, like within those 2.5 weeks. That we had him. Like it was just such a cool news to hear, and then we heard nothing after.
Yeah, we've literally gotten nothing the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I would be really excited for a new Dino Crisis game that is kind of in the vein of Resident Evil 2 remake and that sort of spiritual reboot of the series, essentially, or not of the series, but of that game. Just because like dinosaurs are such a cool thing that I feel like would be best illustrated in games because obviously they don't exist in the real world. And something as popular as dinosaurs, and Capcom has been on such a roll lately with Resident Evil 2 remake and Devil May Cry 4 and all of that. 5, yes. Yeah. Sorry, 4. 4 is in my head. And
4 was a good game too, though.
Darkstalkers, I'm not really as familiar with, but
it's an anime fighting game. I'm not into it. If you liked overly sexualized anime women, there's your jam. That's just me personally. They were a few characters in the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like one of my first tastes to it. Though I do think I remember playing one of the PS1 games, but it's not something I'm interested in. Dino Crisis, I am. Only so that way I can get a remake of what I played on the original Xbox, Dino Crisis 3.
Yeah.
That was in space. It was amazing.
Dinosaurs in space?
Yeah. Like, it was just, first off, it was on the Xbox, so it was, like, beautiful, because the other two Dino Crisis were on the PlayStation 1. So everybody knows that when it comes to the 64-bit, it's hard to remember that as fondly, because it's all polygons, triangles, all that stuff. But I actually did enjoy the first one, not the second one too much, but the third one's my favorite. So I would really love to see that series come back.
Yeah.
I think they would be able to do it very well without the tank controls too.
For sure. Our last news story we have, Dualshock 4 has a new attachment that is a back button attachment. So we were talking about before that this attachment just plugs into the bottom of the DualShock 4 and it creates 2 buttons on the back that you can press into. My problem with it was we had a couple problems with it, that it's at the end of the generation. Why would you do this? And then the second thing is like, I hate how bulky it is. It's so big. Like, it's a giant circle that goes on the bottom of your controller. So, like, when you're holding... For me, personally, the DualShock 4 is really small anyways, and I have big hands. So, like, when I'm gripping the controller, I already feel like I'm tight in there, so I don't want anything else in there. And that attachment would just fucking piss me off. Well, there we go. I already cursed. So, that attachment...
Oh, no, we're interrupting. He cussed twice on the episode that
Yeah.
we could not get the audio to work. And then I made fun of him today before we started. I was like, we're going to cuss. Well, there's no audio on it. That's what's going to happen. You're going to screw up the audio again.
Control already pissed me off with their PlayStation exclusive content that they freaking put out. That got me on a roll with the PlayStation. So this back button attachment, I didn't understand it from that concept, and you didn't understand it as far as the idea of it being like this late in the generation. However,
no, yeah, I did. I completely agree. I thought it was a stupid thing when I heard it. I still am in that mindset after you tell what you're going to tell.
Yeah. However, I think after the news that we got today, there's a new patent. Not today, it was a few days ago, but we have new news that there's a new patent for a new PlayStation controller that drops the home button and then adds the 2 back buttons on the back of the controller, like built in. And I speculated after we solved that, I was like, that would make sense why they're using that attachment, because they're basically saying that the DualShock 4 is going to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 5. That's what we're inferring anyways.
Yeah, so, they haven't said that, as opposed to Microsoft that has said that the other controllers will work.
Right.
I still, now granted, I've never played really with your Elite series, like the attachments.
Yeah.
Just the normal stuff whenever I played any games on your controller. I question the fortitude of the backbone, or the back buttons, only because if you remember this, and I don't remember if you had one or not, PlayStation Vita, the back of it was a touchscreen that you basically had buttons on there too. Yes. That you could have done things like with Killzone actually used it decently. Right. Tearaway had other things for it.
It had 4, right?
Yeah, 4 corners basically. And I honestly found that more cumbersome than I did helpful. That could have been because it was a touchscreen type thing. There wasn't really a button for it. I just don't know, in my mind. Been playing with the same layout of a controller for like 25 plus years. So, I mean, even if you think about the NES controller, it's still front-facing buttons for the most part. I don't know if I'm going to be able to train my brain to think on a back button to use.
So the good news is I don't think that this is going to replace anything. These buttons are just going to be programmable, I think. Obviously, they're not
like
saying
Xbox,
that.
Right?
Yes. Okay. I don't think it's going to be anything where it's a set new button that you press. I think it's just going to be programmable for whatever button you want it to be. So just like the Xbox Elite controller, you won't have to use that if you don't want to use it. At least that's my impression.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because just playing off of yours, those back buttons, though, are not on there permanently. Those are detachable, removable. They're not always on there. Well, you actually have to put them on there.
Yeah, sort of. They're there, but they're like tiny little buttons. Okay. So the only way you use them is with the paddles attachments. So you can press them. It's just
but that impossible. Looks like, at least from the leaks, it looks like it's a button that's actually on there. It's not something you can physically take off. So
right.
Again, I don't know if it's going to be something. For me, maybe it's just their kind of solution to not make a Elite controller type thing for PlayStation. It's just their way to kind of get around that, right. And still give audiences something that they want.
Yeah,
because that might be the best feature on an Xbox controller of the Elite series. I honestly don't think it is. I think it's just the funny detachable stuff.
Right.
Like because I was playing with it when I was playing Witcher 3, like 2 weeks ago, that you could pull the joystick off. I think that was funny. And the D-pad. Yep. That's my personal favorite part about your $200 controller.
Yeah. It's all magnetic.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. That's cool that they're trying that. I now see more of the reason to get the back button if you want to go ahead and start experiencing it.
Yeah.
It's still nothing that I'm going to get, though.
Right. And as long as they give you the option to disable them, I just see this as an added benefit. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, be honest with me. I mean, we're going to obviously go into a little bit of next-gen stuff. Are you really thinking that you're going to use besides your Elite, so please take that out of this, you're going to use your old Xbox One controllers for your new console?
Probably.
You think so?
Yes, because
I don't know.
Because the we'll get to this later in the show, but the new controller that comes with the new console looks very similar to the Xbox One controller with a couple tweaks. So honestly, I don't think that.
Well, so you might not buy extra ones, but
Right.
wouldn't you, like, when you get a new console, isn't like part of it just get like holding that new controller too in it? Like, I don't know. I just don't see myself playing with the PlayStation 4 controllers on the PlayStation 5.
I'll try it out for sure, but I'll most likely still be using the Elite controller because.
Well, yeah, I would too, but I'm just saying, like, as far as the regular, like, you have your blue one.
Yeah, I probably won't buy any additional controllers.
Yeah,
there's really no.
That's
reason
honestly
to.
the most cost-effective thing, because PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers for Black Friday were like $35. So I bought one for myself and my brother-in-law, and we're under the assumption that it's going to work, and Microsoft said theirs is going to work. So we kind of made out in that deal that we got a new console controller, more or less.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the games we're playing, I'm still playing Halo Reach in the Master Chief Collection. Still fantastic. I love it. And it's kind of funny because we get to the end of the generation. We get to the end of the decade now. And I started this decade playing Halo Reach back in 2010, and now I've ended this decade playing Halo Reach in 2019. It's kind of crazy how everything's come
you
full
continued
circle,
into this new decade playing Halo Reach.
And so yeah, that's super awesome. I'm almost done. I'm about maybe a little over halfway through unlocking all of the Season 1 content. So also, I kind of dabbled in Hellblade after the Game Awards for very specific reasons that we'll get into later in the show.
None of it's new. It's 3 weeks.
Yeah, no one knows. It's 3 weeks later, but yeah, that's just a little tease. And obviously, Hellblade's a great game. I love the.
You think you're gonna go back to it though?
Yeah, I'll finish it.
Okay.
I just have to go back to it and finish it.
I just know Halo's kind of in your blood at this moment. You can't get it out.
Hellblade is a super short game too. It's not that. It's like 5 hours, if that.
That's not bad at all.
So the audio in that game is incredible. Definitely surround sound or headphones if you can when you play that game. The last thing I've been playing is something we were playing the other day, Crash Team Racing. We played on Switch, and it was all right. I think it's
that is a very good way to say that.
It's kind of like a poor man's Mario Kart.
So it will always be Mario Kart is number one. Always. I don't know how you get a better kart racer than that.
Yeah.
I think Crash is a decent second. I thought it always was. Now I kind of remember loving it more on the PlayStation. Like the first PlayStation. Actually talking to my friend Chris yesterday, he was saying it's because this is Crash Team Racing, not Crash Tag Team Racing. And he's like, that's when he reminded me. He's like, dude, when we were kids, we played tag team all the time. Like that was where it was like the most fun. Was that
a sequel?
Yeah. And so I was like, oh yeah, you're right about that. I actually love the courses. I think the inventiveness, and they had a whole bunch of them too when we were playing. There was a lot of courses from a lot of different types of games. I think the customizations of the characters, the carts, everything far outweighs Mario's as far as Deluxe 8, which is like the most expansive one, but like you don't get to customize Mario with any like outfit like Mario Odyssey you can. So I think that would be like a really cool thing that they add.
Mario Kart 9.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get one on the Switch.
I don't.
How well 8 Deluxe still does.
Yeah. Has there ever been a platform that didn't have a Mario Kart? A new one?
Not that I can think of. Well, NES, but there wasn't one on the NES.
Yeah. And the handhelds, some of the handhelds didn't get.
Game Boy didn't get one, but Game Boy Advance did. But I mean, my biggest issues with the game is the power-ups. There's too few and too, I guess, inaccurate to really make a damage.
Yeah.
Now, like, you and I, when we were playing together, like, you can do some things, like, I can drop things off to you and do really well, but, like, there's this rolling bomb that comes up, and it's a very slow movement of an item to actually have effect on you personally. Like, if you're in front of me and I shoot it at you, you could just drift slowly to the right and you're going to avoid it. It's pretty easy in that sense.
And that's where I feel like they kind of missed out, I think. Like, they could have added something like the iconic rock or whatever that Crash was always running away from, like, have that, like, as a power-up that, like, tracked enemies.
Yeah.
Almost like the shell from the blue shell.
They do have the homing missiles.
Yeah, they do.
Which those are okay, except for if a character goes in front of a question mark box, then it stops homing them. It targets the question mark box, which I didn't really get on that one.
That's annoying as well.
But really my biggest issue, and this is a game I got for Christmas, so it's not like I really spent money for it, but I have liked it. But the load times. I mean...
Yes.
God damn. That is ridiculous for that game.
And what do we think it's going to be like when we're on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 playing and the load times are like half a second?
Yeah, you're right. Because, like, I mean, this is no joke. To go from menus and go into any races, you're looking at a good 30 to 45 seconds. And I know we were used to back in the day, like, you'd wait a minute or something like that. But those days are over. Like, we don't need to keep going backwards. So, I mean... Excuse me, if they fix that, I would be perfectly okay with giving it a better score in my head.
Yeah.
The last game that I have been playing is Control, finally. So I'm going to preface this with saying Daniel was 100% right back in August when he played it, that I would love this game. It is really high up there now for Game of the Year with Jedi Fallen Order for me. I loved almost everything about this game. The only thing I didn't was I thought this main story was a little too short for that type of game, but I am excited for the future of it.
Yep.
There's a lot of end game content too, even after you beat the main story. And it actually is explained very well why there's still end game content for it. I thought the powers were pretty cool, that most of them actually were not... they were not required to beat the story. There's only like 2 powers that like you need these in order to complete the story.
Yep.
There's 3 other ones that you're like, oh, I found actually one of them after I beat the game, and I didn't even realize it. I think Jessie's actually a really cool character.
Yeah.
I think her dichotomy with what's inside her head was really cool to kind of... It finally explained in a weird and different way a main character talking to themselves, because it's like she's not actually talking to herself, she's talking to what's inside her. I thought the supporting cast were really cool. I really loved the doctor. Not the girl, but the guy. I can't remember his name, but I actually really just like and it's Remedy, so you kind of expect this with live action, but I really liked how your only interaction with him is through videos that you see, like either on the wall or like in a conference room or something like that. And you can actually, this is something I was playing around with, is that like if you move the projector and stuff like that, it'll constantly play just on a different platform then. So like I accidentally levitated while I was watching a video, and I knocked over the camera, and then it just played sideways.
Yes, I did notice that as
So
well.
I thought that was a really cool like thing that they did.
Yeah.
But Remedy still continues to kill it.
Yep. They've never made a bad game.
They have not. Funny thing is, so I don't think I told you this, but one of the main characters is actually the voice actor for Max Payne. I figured that out within like the first couple minutes.
Oh, really?
The original director that you immediately see when you go in there.
Yeah.
That is Max Payne.
Oh.
So I thought that was cool. I don't want to really spoil too much in it, but the odd connection to Alan Wake is really a cool thing for Remedy fans.
Yeah. And the second expansion has been teasing something with Alan Wake.
And how they connected with Alan Wake actually makes so much sense once you like read the little tidbits. The one thing I will say, though, that is a big complaint for me is the amount of files to collect. I think it was a little much with all that stuff. But still, I actually found the environment not boring whatsoever. And I thought I would. With it being like just this giant office building. But because of the way they explain this office building, how it performs, it's a really cool mechanic how they do that whole thing.
It's almost like Luigi's Mansion, where like every level is different. Like it's not all the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but highly recommend it. I totally understand why like outlets like IGN gave it their Game of the Year award.
For sure. Yeah. And I was very high on it until I read the news earlier about
you could talk about that at some
news.
point here when we get into this stuff.
Yeah. Oh. the DLC. I'll talk about it when we talk about the DLC.
I'm getting a drink real quick.
All right, so we're going to move into the topic of the show, the Game Awards. So we have a ton of stuff to talk about from the Game Awards. Obviously, this will be the main part of the show. For the first time ever, the topic of the show is the main part of the show. Sean made that joke last time. That's why I looked that way.
It was funnier the last time.
Nah, whatever. Anyways, the first news story we have from the Game Awards is the Game Awards is celebrating over 45 million live streams. That's an insane number. Like, the Oscars and, like, all of that, I don't think they even get close to touching that number. Like, that's absolutely incredible that Jeff Keighley's been able to put that together through all the live streaming platforms, and it's really good to see.
I wonder if, though, the only thing that, like, scares me is that somebody's going to try to monopolize on that. It's a known entity that games as an industry is more profitable than both movies and music combined.
Yeah.
So how long is it until a major network tries to scoop that up?
True.
I hope Jeff Keighley gets to keep doing his thing.
I agree.
Because I don't think we would get the authenticity. Because I think that's something you get with game developers. Because these people are not, besides like the voice actors and the performers, these people are not like your celebrities that really are only there to dress up nice that day. Like these people are so genuine that you want to hear like their speeches. And like even when other games win awards, everyone's like, yeah, they deserved it. They did a good job. I thought our game was good, but
except in the case of the Sekiro developers where they were like surprised when they got Game of the Year award.
I think it's just the capitalization based off of From Software's work.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about this, and we this is actually where we inserted it last time too. Yeah. So the big winner of the night was obviously Sekiro, winning Game of the Year. But I still think it's more or less based upon this year was a good year for games. There was a lot of good games that came out. It just was not.
There wasn't a killer.
Yeah.
One.
There wasn't God of War, Red Dead Redemption,
Halo Infinite. Oh.
No, I mentioned the two I was going to. But there wasn't those type of games. But there were very good games, such as Control, Sekiro, earmuff it real quick, Borderlands 3, Outer Worlds. But there was a lot of good games that came out this year, so it was hard to really, anybody could have gotten anything. I mean...
And Jeff Keighley, I feel like every year has gotten better every single year. Like, this year was by far the best year. And Jeff Keighley this year, I feel like he didn't hype it up as much as he normally does, which that helped as well. It helped manage expectations. But then he did have some big announcements, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I just feel like he's really upped his game each year. So that's really exciting to see.
Yeah. I mean, there's just the passion that he has for games in total is great to have. It's great to have somebody as a gamer that's on our side that's really looked up to for all this stuff.
Agreed.
Because I mean, I don't know how I would feel if somebody that's not a gamer started hosting these things.
Yep.
If you had, I don't know, this is just a stupid guy. You had Helen Mirren hosting the Game Awards. You'd be like, I'm sorry, Helen, you're like 80 years old.
You say that jokingly, but they did freaking Joel McHale back when the VGX, that was the last time that Spike was involved. They did the VGX, which was the live stream only version, and Joel McHale was one of the hosts, and he was freaking awful. Like, he was
I can see that. I like Joel McHale when he's like scripted.
Yeah.
I could see him not being a good host.
Yeah, no, it was bad. So next news story we have is Humankind was announced with a brand new trailer. It looks very interesting. To me, it looked a lot like Civilization Revolution, which to me was a very interesting game because I played the demo for Civilization Revolution. Yeah, back when demos were actually a thing and every game had one.
There's some now and then.
Yeah. That was a really fun demo. Like, I enjoyed the heck out of it. I never played the actual game because I just enjoyed playing the demo so much. It was basically the full game, just one level or whatever. And I really enjoyed that experience. So this looks very interesting as well. It's basically RTS with larger characters essentially on a map that's like a normal size map. So it's very cool visual flair.
Civilization is always something I wanted to get into. Maybe this will be the game that I do. I really contemplated buying Civ 6 on Black Friday for the Switch, just because I thought that'd be a good portable game to have. But I don't know. It's always something I've wanted to get back into RTS. Once I clean up some of my 2019 backlog while I'm waiting for, I guess at this point, Ori's my first game of this year that I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
Are we talking about that? I don't think so. But with the delay of Ori that ended up happening, just like a month delay.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, just a month delay. It's no longer coming out February 11th. It's March 11th.
Yep.
But that's really my first game that I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah.
So I really want to catch up on things, and I, like you and I talked about, is I actually do want to try out Halo Wars.
Halo Wars 2.
2, sorry.
Yeah.
I want to try it out just because it's been forever since I played the first one.
Yep.
And I thought that was a very well executed RTS.
Very good game. Next up, we have No More Heroes 3 was announced at the Game Awards on Switch for 2020. So No More Heroes, I know virtually nothing about. So
we did this last time.
Yeah.
Same. It's not a series I'm into.
It's not a series you're into.
I played the first two on the Wii. They're odd games. I mean, when your main character's name is Travis Touchdown, what do you expect?
Yeah.
They're quirky, very Japanese. I actually wasn't even a big fan of the second one. The first one was okay. The spin-off that they released on Switch that came out last year did not do very well as far as like...
I know that there's a lot of people that are very invested in the mainline franchise, like that really laud it, but obviously it's not my type of game, so I've never played it.
Yep,
so.
I would agree with you on that.
Yep.
So, but anyways, there's another exclusive to look forward to, Switch.
Yep.
We at least have that coming and Animal Crossing this year.
Yep.
Possibly Zelda. Please God, Zelda.
Yep. Very true. So our next one we have is Weird West announced. So this is interesting as well because this looks a lot like Diablo except set in a Western with like a Borderlands-esque art style. This is from the team that Ralph from Bethesda. He left Bethesda Games, not Bethesda, Prey developer, Arcane.
Arcane, yeah.
He left Arcane and went to his brand new studio that I'm forgetting the name of the developer.
It's a
Wolfeye.
Yeah.
Wolfeye. This is their brand new game, and obviously we both love Diablo, so this looks super intriguing to me.
It looks really cool because it looked like, first off, what you were shown, it looked like potentially that's pretty much gameplay footage. And it was a really cool kind of like a sci-fi, maybe zombie-esque or demonic looter shooter when it comes to Borderlands art style as well. So I don't know. It looked really cool as far as what they were showing off to us.
For sure. And it was just a quick look, but I'm already impressed considering Ralph didn't leave Arcane for, I don't know, that was just a few months ago that he left. So
no release date, though,
right.
or anything like that. No, I don't even think they gave us a window, if I remember right.
No.
So probably look for it next gen.
Yeah. Our next one, we have Ghost of Tsushima that got it got announced for summer 2020. So this is a lot sooner than what I predicted. I predicted a fall 2020 release alongside PlayStation 5 as like a cross-gen title. And you said, I think it was coming sooner rather than then.
I was assuming August.
Yeah.
Which,
that's
again,
probably
that's
when
technically summer,
Yeah.
Because I don't know why you would release it after Last of Us when you know it's coming at the end of May.
No, that'd be stupid.
Yeah. But the trailer, more stuff. What's my biggest pet peeve with this game right now getting shown off? Still no gameplay. That's what I want to know. Because while I loved Infamous, the story was far and away outshined by its gameplay. And Sucker Punch is known for their gameplay. I mean, you got Sly as well when it comes to, yes, there was a story, but the gameplay was king with that stuff. So that's what I'm most looking forward to seeing. I'm not going to be caring about any of this stuff that's going on in feudal Japan. I just want to see what the gameplay is going to be like.
My thing is I trust Sucker Punch, and Ghost of Tsushima looks really good, but if it plays like freaking Dark Souls or something like that,
I don't think it will.
If it does, I'm out.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't think it will either.
No.
I think it'll be something entirely different.
My thought is some form of, I guess, combine like the third person perspective a little bit better when it comes to Infamous with maybe the action of a Devil May Cry. Possibly Neo. Now, I know Neo is very inspired by Dark Souls, but it does not play like a Dark Souls game like you might think. I don't think you've ever played it before.
No.
But it's very, very fast-paced and action-oriented. So it's nothing that, like, your whole methodology of run and gun, you could do that in Neo. Now, certain enemies you're going to have to be smart about, specifically the bosses, but you can do that. So I can kind of see it coming like that. But still, it's good that we got a release date coming out before, obviously, the PS5 supposedly launches.
Yeah.
So it's good that Sony and Microsoft, I think, right now are set up to have a very good year first party wise from both studios. Nintendo is really the only one we don't know that much about.
Yeah. So my only thing is for these cross-gen games, if Ghost of Tsushima does end up coming for PlayStation 5, I hope it's not a situation where they do like a definitive edition on PlayStation 5 and that they just give you the same version of the game. 'Cause actually, Phil Spencer's been talking about that, where Xbox Play Anywhere, their program where you can play, if you buy a game on Xbox Store, you can play it on PC as well. I hope that Sony does the same thing for PlayStation 5. So if there's a version of Ghost of Tsushima that comes out on PlayStation 5, I hope to God you don't have to buy it again. That would make me mad.
I don't think so.
I know it will work backwards compatibility wise, but like as far as like a new version on PlayStation 5.
All I can say is I don't think so. I don't have any evidence or
Right.
any quotations to back up anything that I would have an argument for.
Yeah.
Phil Spencer's the only one that's come out for it. Sony has played this upcoming generation very close to the vest, unless it's talking to that PC magazine. That's it.
Yeah,
True. For some reason, that's the only place they'll talk to.
Which that's kind of a bizarre way to like announce your details. Hey, this one news outlet has the news story of what our PlayStation 5 is.
Yeah, like not Polygon
Yeah.
or IGN or anything like that.
Right. So our next news story we have is Gears Tactics is coming to PC on April 28th. So Gears Tactics is the XCOM-esque Gears game. So apparently this game has like a 40-hour story, which if that's 40 hours of story and like maybe 20 of that is like consistent gameplay, and then you get maybe 10 hours of cutscenes. Or no, that sounds like a Kojima type game. No. But I'm just saying,
pause and save in the middle of a cutscene.
Yeah, no. If you, I don't think anyone wants something that it's just like I think we were talking about this last time, where it's just so drawn out. 40 hours sounds like a lot for that kind of game, but if they have a lot of story in there, I'm totally okay with that. I probably won't play it because I wasn't really into the XCOM games before, like the turn-based strategy type games.
Well, now I think that, yeah, you're right. This is the path that we went down. Maybe we should always record this, that way we remember after.
Exactly.
But like my thought is that XCOM can be very punishing in the fact of you can have an hour-long battle that you can't save it all in that, and then if you die or any of your characters die that you wanted to have live, that's it. Yeah. Like you're screwed with that stuff. You have to restart the entire battle over. That's something that I'm hoping that those 40 hours is not just 40 missions that are an hour long, that it's like multiple missions that are broken up, that you get to have a little bit more exploration with it. I think this is actually just like how Halo was able to finally branch out of the main line with like Spartan Assault, which I get wasn't great, but like other games like Halo Wars, even Halo Reach, because that wasn't like a main line, it wasn't a numbered game. But this is, I think, where finally Gears gets to branch out of their comfort zone too, and tell more of their story outside of the main characters.
Yeah, agreed. And Gears Pop doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but it's actually a super fun mobile game.
See, I didn't like it. I tried it, but I didn't like it.
It's like a card game that is mixed with like strategy and tower defense. And I love tower defense games back in XBLA, Xbox Live Arcade games. I used to play those all the time, tower defense games. I love those types of games, so that game's really good in my opinion. Next, we have a brand new IP announced, 9 to 5, which is a tactical first-person shooter. It looks very much like a Rainbow Six-esque type of game. It has some former Remedy developers that are, among others, that are making this game. The game looks interesting, but to me, the question I have is this. where exactly are they going to fit within the tactical shooter genre? Like, I feel like Rainbow Six has kind of dominated that genre. Like, Rainbow Six Siege has done such a great job supporting the game with every year of content. I think they're on like year 5 of content. That's insane. Like, there's so many operators, so many maps, and they've been on record saying they would love to have 100 operators in the game, which is this insane amount of operators. But I just don't know where like a game like this that looks very much in the same vein fits into.
I would agree. You always have to look how you're going to, whenever it comes to adding a new game or new IP into a same market, you have to look at, okay, I have to take the share away from that game. So Rainbow Six, in this instance, and Rainbow Six has done such a good job with keeping their community together and engaged. I don't know how you take them away from it.
Yeah.
A lot of games are always looking for that continuously like playing type thing. Like, obviously you're continuously playing right now Halo. If you were huge into Destiny, that would be something that you continuously play.
Which I was back in the day.
Yeah, it's just hard to get people away from that stuff. I mean, look at Fortnite too, or Apex, or any of those games. Like, it's just so hard to take people away from their known quantity.
Yep.
And unless you're going to show something not just different, but different to the point where it's going to lure them, I don't know how you survive.
True.
But, I mean, it is former Remedy devs. We just talked about how they don't make a bad game as far as Remedy themselves.
But, new studio.
Yeah, so who knows? It could be a very good game. It's just today's world is not all just about being a very good game.
Yeah.
It's what you offer your community.
Yep. And what do you offer years down the line when this game doesn't necessarily have the same appeal as like that launch window? The next story we have is Green Day has been announced for Beat Saber, and actually, has it already come out
It's
by
out.
this point?
Yep, it's out.
Yeah, so Green Day is in Beat Saber.
Doesn't have their best songs on it.
Really?
It's got Minority and it's got American Idiot. It has Wake Me Up with September. I hate that song too.
Wake me up. We're gonna get
copyrighted.
striked. Yeah.
But Minority is actually one of my favorite songs off their album Warning. But still, I haven't bought that or the Panic at the Disco songs. I'm not a Imagine Dragon fan either, but I haven't bought those. It's just a little too pricey. The one thing I will say though is this is actually giving me hope now that I saw this on my copy.
Yeah.
Because it was something we didn't mention that actually happened at the beginning of this month. Of December, but Beat Saber was bought by Facebook, or not Facebook, but Oculus.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, so we're all under the assumption that okay, maybe they're gonna develop a new game or no DLC is gonna come, but it looks, I could be corrected eventually, but it looks like it's gonna go the route of Minecraft that Microsoft does. Microsoft has yet to make a Minecraft 2. They are making Minecraft Dungeons, I know, that comes out this year.
Yeah.
But they are still supporting every single platform for Minecraft updates.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's something that Oculus and Facebook realizes they should do with Beat Saber.
So I think that they will support Beat Saber until the point where they want them to make their next game. And when they make their next game, I think that will be an Oculus exclusive.
It's possible, but it's also it's not a big developer. As far as the team.
Right.
I don't know, because this is the unfortunate part is, as much as I give crap about Microsoft not giving us numbers for the Xbox One, which, by the way, a little anecdote for you. So Switch has now technically surpassed the Xbox One in sales, but that's because Xbox One has not reported their sales in so many years.
Yeah.
But PlayStation is the only ones that I know of that have announced anything with PSVR sales. Oculus or Vive has not.
Right.
So I think it's all dependent on how many copies are out there if they do it too. Because while I think there's been successful experiences in games on VR units, it has still not made a leap that a lot of people were projecting that this is going to be the new future. And I don't think it was ever going to be in my mind.
Yeah, and even like PlayStation VR, which is the highest selling VR platform, it's only accounting for what, 2% of the entire PlayStation.
I think it's
4
like up
base?
to like 4 or 5 million.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they announced what Black Friday numbers were though, because there were some very good deals on Black Friday.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I think it's a
kind
very
of
cool
drop
peripheral.
Yeah,
it's a very cool peripheral to have.
It's a very cool device, and it does some very cool things. I think the problem is always going to come back to price, and it runs into the same problem that the Kinect had on 360, where you have actually not on 360, more Xbox One.
Yeah,
than 360.
Where it was a success on 360. It was a failure on one.
360, it actually sold like 13 or 14 million, which is insane.
And that's with the Star Wars dancing game.
Yeah, exactly. And Xbox One, we know that whole deal, that it actually increased the cost of Xbox One hardware, which was part of the reason why it sold worse than PlayStation 4, but obviously other reasons as well, like poor messaging and all that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the future of Beat Saber and that studio.
It did win Best VR Game, though, the Game Awards, which deservedly so. I think a close second probably would have been Blood and Truth. Now, I did also get Trover Saves the Universe for Christmas, so I am planning on playing that at some point here soon. Made by Squanchy Games. Basically, Justin Roiland wrote it from Rick and Morty, so I'm looking forward to that, but I really do think Beat Saber deserves it as well.
Absolutely. The next one we have from Game Awards, this was kind of a surprise, sort of. Wolf Among Us 2 was re-announced at the Game Awards. Obviously, this is coming from Telltale Games, not the original Telltale Games.
The reimagined Telltale Games?
Yes. Basically, another company bought the rights to Telltale's name, and they brought back a few of the former Telltale people, but obviously it's nowhere near. It's not the same studio at all. It's just a couple people coming back working at the same place. But they have re-announced Wolf Among Us 2, and they're no longer using the proprietary Telltale engine that they formerly used, the awful game engine that just never performed well at all. They're using Unreal Engine 4, which is definitely going to be a huge leap for them in terms of performance and visuals.
So we talked about this last time, that we think Wolf Among Us is a top tier of original Telltale's properties. Yeah. Now I know it's actually my favorite, but you rank Walking Dead ahead of that.
Yes.
Season 1.
Yes.
And then Borderlands, Telltale.
Tales from the Borderlands.
Is in that top 3 for it. But I was kind of surprised that this is actually coming as well. My only thing is, I don't know if it's gonna. I just don't see adventure games as a lot of people want to see adventure games. They want to see them as like, man, everyone wants to play this. They want to, and it's like, guys, if anything, like all these games these days have shown that like no one gives two craps about the story.
Yeah.
They really just want good gameplay, and those games don't have gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, Fortnite, most played game in the world. It's all gameplay. There's no story.
And the other problem is with a game like an adventure game like what Telltale makes, if you don't have a really good story, then you don't really have much of a game, because there's not really any gameplay mechanics that could save that.
Let's just hope it's not episodic.
And the only other IP that they acquired from the whole Telltale dissolving is Batman.
Yeah.
So Batman and Wolf Among Us is all they have.
Which Batman, the first season, was not terrible.
Yeah,
it had an interesting twist with his parents.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I don't know. Those games I unfairly judge based on my technical issues with them too.
Yeah. You don't like walking simulators.
Yes, and I also we were talking about this, I think, the last time, about how we really hope that it's not episodic. You were just talking about how like you don't know how it's gonna perform, and Telltale always had a curse of episode 4, always being a very weak episode. And I don't think that that's the route they should go down, is episodic for this at all. They need to stop that whole game.
I agree, but they probably will still use it.
More than likely, yeah.
Our next story, back to Control. Control's Free Expeditions DLC is out right now, as of 3 weeks ago. So,
what is it though? I need to look that up, because obviously I beat the game, but I don't know what it is.
I think it was like some kind of wave-based thing. You can look that up while we're continuing, but I'm pretty sure it was like some kind of wave-based DLC where you would have like continuously evolving enemies that you would have to face off against. I could be wrong on that, but there's also, they announced that the first expansion is coming March 26th, which we discovered.
It's the jukebox stuff. It's just more inside.
Oh, okay.
It's just more inside the jukebox stuff.
Okay.
That's all.
So the first expansion that's paid is coming March 26th, which today I just discovered that it's only coming to PlayStation 4 on March 26th. We were talking about this before, and I looked it up online, and I was like, oh, PlayStation Store actually has the Season Pass on sale right now, and the DLC's not even out yet. I was like, oh, yeah, you could jump on that. And then I looked for it on the Xbox Store. I'm like, wait, why can't I find this on the Xbox Store? So then I looked it up. Apparently, they put it in their press release. In very small print, they said something to the effect of Xbox One and PC will get the expansion 1 after it's already out on PlayStation 4. You'll be able to purchase it. So you can't even purchase it right now. Even if I wanted to give Remedy my money, I can't because it's not available. It's deals like this that just infuriate me. The whole Destiny DLC infuriated me back when I loved playing Destiny. Like, that infuriated me to no end. I was constantly tweeting at Bungie and some of the community guys at Bungie that I had been well-versed with back in the Halo days, and it was just very frustrating. And this seems like a very similar situation that I absolutely hate when companies do this. Why? This doesn't benefit anyone.
I think the only thing it benefits is their bottom line.
Yeah, but it's like, if you already own the game, this is just DLC. This isn't even, like, the actual game. So, like, if you own Control at this point, then you own Control. Like, whatever platform you own it for. You're not going to go buy a PlayStation 4.
Well, and the actually biggest issue that I have with this is that, first off, this DLC is basically coming 9 months after launch. Maybe 8 months. That's tough to kind of, like, most people probably beat Control and that was it. There wasn't too much reason to go back because it's a single-player game. Obviously, I just got it for the holiday, so I'm still playing it. But it just, those types of games to go, like Zelda. Zelda, you basically went a year between that. And that was very hard to go back to because at that point, I'm like, crap, I don't remember how to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I forgot about all that stuff. So I don't like that when it comes to single-player games that the DLC is that long after the launch.
Yeah.
I'd prefer not even any DLC, such as God of War. God of War didn't do any DLC. Corey Balrog even said that to begin with. The story is the story. That's it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that they were like, I'm not going to give you anything like 9 months after the fact.
Or give us, like, a standalone DLC like Last of Us had with
Left Behind.
Yeah. Like, I like that kind of stuff. Or Far Cry 4.
Blood Dragon?
Or Blood Dragon? Yeah, or 3 Blood Dragon. I don't remember.
I thought Blood Dragon was on 3.
Okay. Yeah, but stuff like that I feel like is more suited when you do expansion type stuff. Next news story is a PlayStation 5 news story.
First PlayStation 5 game.
The first PlayStation 5 game proper announced, Godfall, which is being published by Gearbox. It's a fantasy looter slasher is what they're calling it, and it's been announced for PlayStation 5 and PC for holiday 2020. Obviously, this game looks very intriguing, and it looks very much like a hack and slash, like Devil May Cry-esque type game, or
maybe.
I mean,
no gameplay.
No,
it's just a teaser trailer.
Just like a teaser, kind of indicative of final art style, I guess.
I mean, it looked interesting as far as what it was. I don't know why everything has to be a looter slash something at this point, but that's just me. I have issues when it comes to multiple type genres. I don't know why we have to have everything has every single thing. Yeah. Like, I mean, RPG mechanics are all the rage now. Every game has to have some sort of RPG mechanic.
Well,
or it really doesn't have to have it.
Assassin's Creed started with just RPG mechanics, and now it's pretty much an RPG.
It is a definition of an RPG.
Yeah.
It's just a global one. You can never say it's a Western or a Japanese RPG at this point. Yeah. But cool. I mean, it's our first game that's announced for PS5. Again, know nothing about it. You probably know just as much as just looking at that as you would at any other game that they've kind of teased at this point.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm glad we have a game. That's about all I can say to it. I mean, granted, you have all your PlayStation 4 games that you'll be able to play. I'm not really... Nothing that gets launched as far as game-wise is going to be dependent on if I'm going to purchase the console or not. I know I'm going to get a PlayStation 5. I know you're going to get a Scarlet. I know those two quantities.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. The only thing that, and I know that I will have games to play and you will have games to play. So a game is not going to sell me on if I'm going to get the console or not. The only thing that's going to sell me on the console at this point is the price.
Yeah.
That is my main thing, and I know we're about to jump into it here after another news story. But that's going to be my only thing that's going to, at all crux anything, is what am I looking at for launch price?
Yeah. So our next news story is one that you would be familiar with because I've never played this. But
well, yeah, I still haven't even played the DLC, but the Marvel Ultimate Alliance second DLC is out. It is the Rise of the Phoenix DLC this time around. So you get like more X-Men characters because obviously now with Disney and Fox, Disney owning Fox more or less, they can now be a part of the Marvel universe again, which I always thought was a stupid thing, but that's just me. But you get, obviously, Jean Grey, Cyclops, I think Rogue, and maybe Beast is in there. Wolverine was already there. But cool. I'm glad they're still supporting this game. I mean, I thought it was a fun game. It's not doing anything revolutionary. The Marvel Ultimate Alliances weren't. I think they're a fun party game. I would like you and I to play it at some point.
Yep.
Just to kind of give it a go. But I mean, they're decent games just to kind of do like button mashy hack and slash things. I honestly think, especially with how popular Marvel is these days, it'd be like a perfect family game because it's obviously, it's not going to be blood intensive or anything like that. The kids are going to see their favorite heroes and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it's just cool that they're still supporting this.
Agreed. And of course, it's another thing that Nintendo just grabbed out of nowhere. I don't think anyone anticipated that.
That's very true. Happen. Yeah. That was announced during E3 of this past one in 2019. So It's just funny how they got that. I'm curious how well it sold.
Yeah.
Before we go into our news story, prediction wise, of course, I didn't get any update on Bayonetta 3, so I am done watching the Game Awards because my God, give me something.
Did you even watch the Game Awards?
I watched them via you.
Oh, yeah, me screaming for this next news story. Our next news story is Project Scarlet is now Xbox Series X, which was announced at the Game Awards, and it has a brand new design that has not been really done with a console before, where it basically almost looks like a PC tower. It stands upright. Obviously, you can lay it down as well. They confirmed that, but it's definitely a big box for the power that's inside of it. But they announced Series X with a sizzle reel. I wasn't sure what the heck we were getting when we first saw the trailer. I was like, what is this, Bioshock? Like, the camera shot went into the water, and I was like, is this a Bioshock game? And then all of a sudden you see a car go past, and I was like, wait a minute. That looks like Forza. Like every car game, and I know this is like deja vu, but every car game has like its own visual style. Like Gran Turismo has its own style, Forza has its own style and flair. And as soon as I saw that car, I was like, that looks like Forza. And then they cut away from that to a soccer game. I was like, FIFA? Like, what's happening? I still was confused. And then they showed Master Chief walking up the fucking ledge, and there I go again, because I'm excited.
That's twice. You did the same amount in the last episode.
I know.
I just want to be clear. I get to cuss as much as I want from now on.
Yeah, I've screwed it up. I apologize.
I have never cussed it. You always have.
I apologize to all the children that are listening to this podcast. Probably none, so we're probably fine. But they show Master Chief walking up to the ledge, looked absolutely incredible. Obviously, it's indicative of Halo Infinite, but didn't really show much else other than those three shots. But it's very exciting because we finally have a name, and Microsoft made the bold decision to go first at the Game Awards. Obviously, I don't think anyone anticipated us getting the name being announced at the Game Awards.
Name or console, no.
Right.
You would think that would just be a special event, just like how they did this current generation. How they both had their separate events and everything.
Exactly, and that went so well for Microsoft with Xbox One. So I mean, just kidding, it didn't.
Well, I think they learned from their mistake as far as PlayStation 4 dominated the conversation for 3 solid months before Xbox had their event in May.
That's true.
So I think they were like, okay, we need to at least
go first.
Yeah, go first. See if there's some momentum we could carry because Now, no press release has said anything about there being events next year. We're all just assuming they're both going to have an event before E3, but still Xbox out of the gate is coming out with name, look, controller look as well.
Yep.
Games that you pretty much knew were coming but were confirmed. So you have 3 now confirmed games for Xbox Series X, which is Halo, FIFA, and what was the other one? Forza. Yep.
Although they're not confirmed necessarily.
But you assume when you see it in that type of reel, yeah.
Yeah. Turn 10 skipped a year last year. They didn't release a game, so they're going to have an extra year to make Forza Motorsport, you presume. Some of the specs that they did confirm, they said the Series X is 4 times more powerful than Xbox One X, which is insane because One X is a very powerful console as it is. So it supports horizontal and vertical orientation, as we talked about, backwards compatibility with thousands of games over all 3 generations previously. So all of your backwards compatible games that you can play on Xbox One, you can still play on Series X. So that's a huge catalog right there. And they did say 4K 60 frames per second is the target for the console, and you can get up to 120 frames per second with variable refresh rates. So I think the thing that's interesting is just seeing like the load times and see how big of a deal that is and see what the next gen really is defined by. I think the next gen is going to be more defined by performance than necessarily visuals, because I feel like the visual upgrade we got for the most part with PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, and now we're going to get more of the performance aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried, because I mean, I really think like my holy crap moment at the beginning of this generation was actually a smaller game called Resogun, was just looking at all the particle effects that were going on, than just that detail. So I agree with you that we are to the point of, I think, a lot of realism stuff. Just like the games look pretty. If your game doesn't look pretty, then I don't know what to tell you. I think it's, for the most part, it seems very easy at this point because a lot of games do. I mean, I remember Assassin's Creed Origins, when you're on the river in Egypt and you're like, oh my god, this looks so pretty. And like I could see that easily running on the Xbox Series X. So I think that stuff looks good. Now it's like what's going to be going on underneath that water, or what's going to be going on left or right of you and all that stuff. So I think that's going to be really what defines it. I think we're going to see some sort of video, and Digital Foundry is going to break it down for us and everything, where they're going to load the same game, and that's what people are going to be like, oh my god, did you see how fast they got into this game? That's where people are going to be starting to freak out.
And I did just remember while we were talking about that there was a leak this past week about the
Nothing confirmed.
Nothing confirmed, but basically a leak that people are speculating is comparing the power. What people are saying right now is that the PlayStation 5 is going to be around like 9 teraflops. So just to put it in perspective, Xbox One X is 6 teraflops, and PlayStation 4, the original, is like 1.2 or something like that. Just to give you like an idea of where that lands. People are speculating it's going to be 9.2 teraflop GPU for PlayStation 5, and the rumor for Scarlet is that it's going to be a 12 teraflop GPU. So obviously this is all speculation right now, but this almost makes me think that Sony is trying to undercut Microsoft on the price again, so that Microsoft launches at a higher price point, and maybe it's a more powerful console, obviously, but it's not necessarily getting the advantage of the lower price point. But the one wild card that we haven't talked about is Xbox Lockhart, which is the rumored lower powered Xbox Series X, or next Xbox, whatever the fuck you want to call it. What?
You don't even care anymore, do you?
What?
You just cussed again.
Oh, son of a gun. I didn't even realize that I did. So, whatever you want to call it. So, my idea is that they would call it Xbox Series S, because it would fall in the same naming convention that Xbox One S and
just get away from the letters.
Xbox One S and Xbox One X has. So, that's my idea. So, if Microsoft does that, Obviously, Lockhart would be a lower price.
I was gonna say there's the rumors of the Lockhart though is that it's actually lower power than the current X out right now.
Sort of.
That's my only issue with that console at this moment.
Well, sort of. The rumor right now is that the CPU is the exact same in the X and the Lockhart, and the Series X and Lockhart. So that's the rumor right now, that the CPU is the same, the GPU is just less powerful. So the Xbox One X, the CPU in the Xbox One X is identical to the CPU in the Xbox One S. It's only the GPU that's more powerful. So people are maybe confused at home if you don't know. Yeah,
probably because of the names and all that stuff. Yeah, I agree.
But so it's very different. You can't really compare Lockhart to Xbox One X because it has a very different architecture. To put it in layman's terms, the picture that it displays will display in lower resolution than Xbox One X, but it has the ability to play the next gen games because it has the higher powered internals, if that makes sense. So obviously you'll still get the benefit of the SSD with quick load times and stuff like that, but you won't have as powerful of a console for a premium experience.
Well, truthfully at this point, especially after a few weeks, what's going on in my head as a consumer, now obviously I'm a biased consumer because PlayStation is my primary console. It is the one that I have gotten every time. I never had a 360. So I
never had a 360?
No, there was like 7 of them in my college, so there was no reason to have one when everyone in my dorm had one, or my frat house. That's how I was able to play like Crackdown and all that stuff. But I am obviously leaning towards a PlayStation 5 pretty much no matter what. The only thing that could probably kill that for me is the price. Right now, it is all dependent on what Xbox shows me with prices for both the Series X and the unannounced Lockhart edition.
Yeah.
That's where I really want to see, because at this moment, I still have said that PlayStation first-party experiences speak more to me than Xbox. But Xbox has done a great job the last 2 years of acquisitions, and it's good to see what they're going to continue to do with those acquisitions, like what the team's going to make as far as projects going forward.
Yeah.
So depending on what comes out of those studios would lean me towards, okay, let's get an Xbox Series at launch. But I need to see what price, because I'm not going to spend $1,000 on 2 consoles at once.
Right.
Because obviously I want games too.
Yeah.
I'd rather get an experience of one altogether. But if the Xbox Lockhart is like, we're maybe thinking $349, something like that.
$349, and then maybe PS5 $449, and then maybe
Lockhart $500. Though I know Destin Legary on Xbox or Unlocked even said that he's now worried about the $500 price tag because of what's inside the Series X.
Yeah.
But you mentioned too how you don't see Xbox making a PlayStation 3 mistake where it's like, hey, $600.
And the other thing is Phil Spencer in the past has always said that consoles should be an affordable price. So like when people were asking about what Xbox One X was going to cost when they first announced Project Scorpio, that was the original code name for Xbox One X. When they first announced Project Scorpio, people were asking about price, and Phil consistently said, obviously it's going to be a premium console, but it's not going to be something out of the normal for a console price point. So that's why the comments like that make me think that Series X is going to be $500.
$500's not bad. I still would obviously like to see it lower, because that's still $1,000. Parents see that during the holiday season. They're like, nah, because we know they're not going to be on sale in the holiday season.
Yeah.
People see that and they're like, oh, that's a little too much to spend for it. But I just don't see either one going above that threshold. But who knows with everything. But it'll be interesting. Like I said, I don't see, the games are not what's going to sell me. You're already going to buy an Xbox Series X, even if Halo wasn't initially a launch game. You would have already bought it.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm going to do. Those are my consoles.
Right.
You and I both got to Switch at launch, which is things that we wanted. So it's all dependent then on now what we're going to see on price if we want to get an extra. If you want a PlayStation 5 or if I want Xbox Series.
Yeah.
So
you said Xbox Series. Do you want to go the approach of what we did the first time, that you act like you don't know what it is?
No. I still stand behind though that I think.
But it's not called
X,
Xbox Series.
It's not. Yeah. But that's what I'm just saying. It is.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to lead me into doing the same thing.
No, I just really hate the X at the end now. So that's my main crux about the whole thing.
So yeah, we were talking about this last time. But he didn't know that it was.
In my defense, they had to come out the next day and clarify what the real name was. They did.
Phil did say it on stage though.
He had to clarify.
Xbox.
You shouldn't have to clarify what it is, in my opinion.
I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole nother debate.
No.
The Series X name, I personally think it's a fine name because you've already put all this marketing into the Xbox One X, which people weren't confused about that. I mean, people bought the Xbox One X. They weren't confused. And you marketed it as the most powerful console. So, like, people see that X as most powerful, essentially. And you have the Xbox One S, which is labeled as being the lesser powered console. That's your standard console. That's why it's S. So to me, it makes perfect sense, and this is why I think they're going to call it Xbox Series S for Lockhart, if that does indeed become true, because that is all speculation right now. But Xbox Series X makes sense because you have essentially the ability now to go beyond generations. You don't create new generations anymore. You're just going to be Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series Z, Xbox Series Y, whatever the fudge. I didn't say it. I said fudge. Whatever you want to call it. You have the ability to do that. And Phil did say this is our new Xbox console, Xbox Series X. And the Series X just describes that console, that tower, that big console. And I even had the idea that they could have 3 different sizes. So you have the full size tower, that's your Series X. You have the next size down, which is your Series S. And then you have like a little cube that I thought would be a cool idea for like a Series, I don't know, C. I don't know. Something like a streaming type box. So they've been pushing xCloud. So if you just wanted a streaming only device or something that could play like limited games or something to that effect. That's just I'm just throwing out ideas. But that's why I think that makes sense.
And you and I will not agree on this just because of how I'm thinking. You're not going to convince me to think differently. I think cool, the Xbox, and then having it a series or saying, but now your platform is just called Xbox. Makes complete sense.
Right.
Totally understand it. PlayStation's done it for years. It's worked out fine. There's no confusion with that. My issue is really just the X part. And that's just how I feel. I think that you could have gone a different letter because your last console that you came out with was called the X at the end.
Right.
And a lot of people anecdotally refer to it as the X. A lot of media journalists, I'll take Ryan McCaffrey for instance, he doesn't call it the Xbox One X, he just calls it the X.
Right.
A lot of people do. So I think in that sense you're getting a little bit of confusion with it. I really hope that your prediction of calling it the S is also not something that they do. I think, I don't know, I just would rather them do something different as far as coming up to it. Now maybe in the future that's what they do. They just set it up for now. Perfectly fine. I'm just looking at it, though, for what was announced at the moment.
And I get your point with the X saying McCaffrey's talking about the X, but I think it's a little different because the Series X isn't even out yet. So, like, McCaffrey talking about the X isn't really confusing because that Series X isn't even out.
No, but I'm just saying that I still don't... There was no reason to call your console, the first one that was announced, the Xbox Series X. Just in my opinion.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they did it purely for that most powerful console because they even put it again on Series X. They put most powerful console.
So we should blame Apple for this whole thing because they started this X bullshit?
I mean,
because they skipped 9?
Technically, if you think about it, actually, Apple is a great point because Apple does the same thing. Xbox, now I'm on Xbox. iPhone 6S, iPhone 7S, iPhone 11S.
So I agree.
But
here's my thing: they added to it. They didn't copy it. That's my issue.
What do you mean they didn't?
So Xbox One X, not Xbox Series X. They did not change that initial thing that's in front of it. They changed what's at the end.
Well,
so that's my issue with it, because like technically when the iPhone X got announced, it was the iPhone X and the iPhone X Max.
Right.
So it's what they announced, and then when they did the
XS,
that was actually the year after.
Yes.
The year after, then they did the XS and the XR.
Right.
So they changed that lasting part to differentiate.
But then the next year you get. That's what my point is.
The next year was the 11 XR.
Yes.
And that part makes sense in the future going forward.
Right.
My issue again is starting off is I get it. They had to fix something with the name because. Yeah. And this is something that I will personally blame their former head, Don Matrix. That the fact is that they called it the Xbox One. That was a terrible name to begin with. That should not have been the name of this console. Not saying the Xbox 720 that was always rumored would have been better, but it should never have been the Xbox One because that was a confusing messaging. So they were backed into a corner, so I get them trying to differentiate that. Yeah. It's just I think that was a poor use of a letter at this time.
The thing to me, though, like, back to the Apple thing, there are Apple devices that are on the market at the same time. Like, the Xbox, or I keep saying Xbox, the iPhone 6S was on the market at the same time the iPhone 7S was out. So, like, they have crossover, but that's not confusing.
Well, they're technically there, but they're not upsold like an Xbox Series X is going to be. When people come in, you actually mentioned this the last time. When people come in, you have that mindset they're not going to be confused because if they go to the Best Buy cashier, they're going to say like, "Yeah, can I get the new Xbox?" And they're going to immediately know, okay, hey, they're talking about the Series X. Well, maybe the Lockhart. I don't know what that looks like launch window. But they're going to know that type of stuff. So that makes sense in that instance, but I'm talking about your average consumer for it.
Yeah.
But I know we got a few more things that we wanted to talk about with it.
Yeah, so we'll move on.
Because we said it's already an hour and 20, you bastard.
The new Xbox controller was also shown off with the Series X. Obviously, it looks very similar to the Xbox One controller. It just looks like a cleaner design. It's a little smaller, they said. And also it has a transformable D-pad as well. It has a share button in the middle of the controller, just like the PlayStation 4 has the share button. So essentially they just added the share button, which personally...
Controllers steal each other's ideas all the time from each other.
And personally, I never really saw the need for the share button because you press the Xbox guide button and you press one button and you have the same effect. So
this time you just get to hit it. I guess I've never shared a single clip in my entire life. So.
To me, it's not a huge deal, but I mean, it's something added, so whatever.
The only thing I'd be curious if they stole, because I really was kind of hoping, is that HD Rumble feature that Nintendo Switch has. Yeah. But doesn't really seem like Nintendo's even going forward into it either. So maybe it was just not something that looked like it.
The Xbox One controller has rumble triggers, and the triggers, it has separate rumble packs that makes your fingers like feel rumble. But the problem is since that's not a feature on PlayStation 4, a lot of third-party developers don't even utilize it because it's not on all platforms.
Well, an HD Rumble was really cool for 1-2 Switch, and that was really the only game that did it. Because I don't know if you played the demo inside Best Buy, but like you felt the marbles inside there, like actually drop down and on your palm of your hand. But I mean, that wasn't something that they chased after.
That's the problem with proprietary tech. Only first-party studios use the tech, so it's kind of irrelevant. Almost like the touchpad. Like the touchpad's just a button now, essentially. They don't utilize like the swiping as much as they should, personally. But our last story we have is Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga has been announced for Xbox Series X. That was a trailer shown right after.
Wrong.
No, I said
Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
No, it's Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga. Oh my gosh, not this again. So they announced that after Series X was announced. Phil Spencer did say it was early in development, so I think we won't see it come out until probably 2021 at the earliest. Yeah. Personally, I'm very excited for this. I love Ninja Theory. Hellblade's always been for me like the number 3 or 4 game in Ninja Theory's guide. I love Unslaved and I love DMC.
As long as Enslaved was your number 1.
Yeah, I loved Enslaved and DMC.
It's too underrated in my opinion.
They're very good games, but Hellblade is a very good game. It's just a very different type of game. You just have to go into the mindset that it's a very it's a very methodical game and it's a very mental game. So it does a lot of things mentally. So very excited for that, and obviously
looks creepy as hell.
Obviously that means we have a total of 4
Series
X games.
Essentially, yeah.
Although Ubisoft's games, they announced a bunch of games that are technically coming to both platforms as well. But I think that pretty much does it. Appreciate you guys sticking it out for episode 20, the
Part
second
2.
time. Yeah, the first time obviously disappeared, but appreciate you guys sticking it out. And remember, you can join us each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Real quick, we were talking about saying, so like in this new year, we just wanted to give you guys a heads up. We might be trying some different things out. Might not see the top 5 stuff. I know if you liked them, sorry. We're gonna just kind of continue to try things out. It was a little hard for us to continuously find something every single week.
I just realized that Ben commented. Yeah, sorry, Ben. I didn't realize that you guys wanted the link. I normally send them a link that we're live, and I forgot.
Jeez,
sorry, Ben. I apologize.
But we're also thinking about, as far as like at least this month, doing some predictions for the new year, game of the year, game of the decades, and just trying some new things out as we kind of go along and everything.
Yep. So appreciate you guys sticking it out. And again, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're live each and every Wednesday. And I forgot to do the closing music, so that's kind of unfortunate.
Here, I got you.
But there we go. I just started it now. So thank you guys again, and much love, and keep on gaming.
Deuces.